You stole bread in London. Now, you're crossing the world in chains. For 8 months you lived inside a floating prison. Disease spread through the ship. Men died beside you. The smell of sickness never disappeared. Then one morning, land appears through the fog. Australia. Some prisoners cry with relief, others stare silently, because everyone has heard the rumors. This place is hell. The ships enter Sydney Cove slowly. Soldiers stand waiting on shore with muskets. The moment the prisoners step off the boats, the shouting begins. A whip cracks through the air. Weak prisoners collapse into the mud. The guards don't care. Most convicts can barely walk. Their clothes hang in rags, faces covered in dirt, skin infected from months at sea. One prisoner bends down and kisses the ground. A soldier kicks him in the ribs. The convicts are forced into lines while officers inspect them like animals. Strong prisoners are separated immediately. Those too sick to work are often left to die. As the sun begins to set over Sydney Cove, the prisoners realize something horrifying. This is not temporary. Australia is now their prison forever. The next morning begins before sunrise. No alarms, no mercy, only shouting. The convicts are dragged from the dirt and forced into lines once again. Cold rain falls over Sydney Cove. Mud covers their feet. Chains scrape against the ground. British officers walk slowly down the rows of prisoners, watching, judging, choosing. Strong men are separated immediately. They are ordered to cut trees, move stone, and build the colony from nothing. Some have barely survived the voyage, but the work begins today. Weak prisoners terrify the officers. A convict too sick to work is useless, and useless prisoners are dangerous. One starving man collapses during inspection. A soldier strikes him with the butt of a musket. Women are marched toward overcrowded huts near the camp. Many already know what waits for them there. Some prisoners whisper about escape, but the wilderness surrounding Sydney Cove is endless. Unknown animals scream from the forests at night. Most convicts have never even seen a land like this before. One officer stops in front of a young prisoner, maybe 16 years old, thin, terrified. The officer grabs his jaw and forces him to look up. He tells him he belongs to the Crown now. By midday, the prisoners understand the truth. They were not sent here to survive. They were sent here to build an empire. By evening, the work finally stops, but nobody feels relief. The prisoners are herded back toward the camp like animals, exhausted, starving, broken. Smoke rises from crude cooking fires across Sydney Cove. For the first time since arriving, the convicts are given food. A guard throws hard biscuits into the mud. Men dive for them instantly, fighting, scratching, begging. One prisoner hides half a biscuit inside his shirt. Another notices. Within seconds, they are beating each other in the dirt. The guards laugh while watching. Tonight's ration is small. Salted meat crawling with flies. Stale biscuit hard enough to break teeth. Dirty water from barrels sitting in the sun. But nobody refuses it, because hunger is stronger than pride now. Some prisoners sit silently beside the fires, too weak to speak. Others whisper about England, families, children, homes they will never see again. Far from the camp, strange sounds echo through the Australian wilderness. Birds screaming, branches cracking, creatures moving in the darkness. The convicts stare nervously toward the trees. Everything about this land feels wrong. One old prisoner quietly tells the others that they all died the minute they arrived. Nobody answers him, because deep down, they know he's right. Night falls over Sydney Cove, and the temperature drops fast. The fires grow smaller. The darkness grows larger. There are not enough huts for everyone. Hundreds of convicts are forced to sleep outside in the mud, still wearing chains, still covered in filth from the voyage. Some prisoners curl beside dying fires for warmth. Others simply lie on the ground, staring into the black sky. The sounds never stop. Coughing, crying, whispers. Some men quietly pray. Others curse the Crown through broken teeth. A woman screams somewhere beyond the huts. Then suddenly, silence. Nobody moves. Nobody asks questions. Because everyone already understands how this place works. One prisoner tries to sneak away from the camp under cover of darkness. A guard spots him near the trees. The musket shot echoes across the colony. The entire camp wakes instantly. The prisoner's body is left where it falls, as a warning. Hours later, rain begins pouring from the sky. The fires die completely. Convicts shiver in soaked clothing while mud swallows their bodies. And deep in the Australian wilderness, strange cries echo through the forest again. Birds screaming, branches snapping, creatures moving beyond the trees. By the end of the first 24 hours, Australia no longer feels like a prison colony. It feels like the end of the world. For Britain, Australia was never meant to be mercy. It was punishment, a prison built at the edge of the world. Thousands of convicts were sent here for crimes that today seem unthinkable. Stealing bread, stealing clothes, sometimes only a few coins. Children were transported too, some no older than 13. Most prisoners believed they would eventually return home. Almost none ever did. The first 24 hours inside the colony destroyed that hope completely. The hunger, the beatings, the endless labor, the fear of the wilderness beyond the camp. Everything was designed to break them. And for many convicts, it worked. Some died from disease, others from starvation. Some disappeared into the Australian bush, never seen again. But over time, the prison colony grew. Roads were built, ships arrived, settlements expanded across the continent, and the convicts who survived became part of Australia's foundation. Yet even decades later, former prisoners still remembered that first night. The cold mud, the screams in the darkness, the realization that nobody was coming to save them. Because the moment they stepped onto Australian soil, their old lives ended forever. And for thousands of convicts, Australia truly became the end of the world. One convict's story became legendary across the colony. His name was Thomas Barrett. Barrett arrived in Australia with the First Fleet in 1788. But survival inside the colony was brutal. Food was disappearing fast. Starvation haunted everyone. Only weeks after arriving, Barrett was caught stealing food from the government stores. The punishment was immediate: death. On February 27, 1788, Thomas Barrett became the first man executed in Australia's new prison colony. Thousands of convicts were forced to watch. The message was clear: steal and die. Before his execution, Barrett reportedly stayed calm, because by then, he already understood the truth about Australia. For many convicts, survival itself had become the crime, and as his body hung before the colony, the prisoners watching realized something horrifying. This land would show no mercy to any of them. The first 24 hours were terrifying, but for some convicts, the nightmare had only just begun.